A long time ago, on a comics page far, far away. Greetings and welcome to May the Panel Be With You, the Star Wars comic book show brought to you by the Punch Up Entertainment Network. I am your humble host, Mike Gargoni, and joining me, as always, the spokesperson Klisk to my giant blue guardian, it's John Campbell.
Here we are, Gargoni. We've entered it. The giant, not even giant size, super-sized giant. Oh, it's both. I'm looking at the cover.
It is a supersized Star Wars saga giant 50th collector's issue. This is the 50th issue of the Marvel Comics Group presents the Star Wars, the best space fantasy saga begun by George Lucas himself, and we've done it now for 50 issues.
They said we'd never make. They said you guys will never get to 50. No way. And by God, we've of course done actually many more than 50, but at least of the main line starting 1977. Series, we're at issue 50.
We are at issue 50. This is, of course, a 50 is like a big watershed moment for a lot of comic books. Why? Because it's a number that starts with a 5 and ends with a 0.
Yeah, it's nice, right? It's just a nice round number. But actually now, it's pretty rare for anything to get to 50 at Marvel or DC, it feels like. Because they're always starting the numbering system over again, so they can always promote a new number one. How many books even get to, particularly at Marvel?
I mean, particularly at Marvel, yeah. It's rare to see a book get to 12 a lot of the times.
Yeah. I heard that somewhere a while back, and I kind of agree with this. Is like, when is Marvel going to pack it in and just say, we just do miniseries? That's it. They're all miniseries. There is no such thing as an ongoing anymore at Marvel.
I would almost respect that more, honestly.
Yeah. I think, and I've said this before, and this is where, obviously, once again, where people wanted to tune into this. But the way I look at it, too, is like, I think that'd be good, actually. Like, just admit you're basically making television seasons at this point, right? Here's your 6 to 12 issues. There's your story, and then there's another story. Maybe it pulls, the continuity of that, but it's probably a new creator, and it's the character you like.
Yeah. I will say a lot of the bigger books like Avengers or some of the bigger X titles these days.
They'll go on for a bit.
Yeah. Though obviously everything within the X line is resetting right now as we're recording this during the big Krakoan era ending.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've been following the announcements for the new stuff, and it looks interesting.
Sure. We're getting a new book called NYX. I never expected that.
Me neither, but that Marvel never forgets anything, and they will always revert back to something that was popular in the past.
This is again back to the 50th issue of Marvel Star Wars, getting us off our tirade on just numbering issues. We are in an era in which if a book was selling even marginally well, it would go on forever.
Yeah. And this, obviously, that makes a lot of sense because these movies are still going. I have to imagine this was a big seller for Marvel.
Yeah, I mean, we talked earlier in this series about how this particular comic book was one of those things that sort of buoyed Marvel at a time where its financial situation was not exactly great.
Yeah, I think there was a period of time where this was really the only thing that was like cooking for them.
And it like to the point where it's lucky that they even got this book when they were shopping around, like selling off the rights for merchandising with Star Wars. Obviously, no one knew how big or explosive this book and franchise was going to become.
The Secret History, I believe it's Marvel Comics: A Secret History, the probably definitive book about this to Marvel. There's a whole chapter about this comic that's basically them going like. Hey, there's this space movie that's shooting in Tunisia. Do you guys want that? And they're like, I guess. Like, they sort of took the license on like okay, well, that's something. We can maybe get a couple issues out of it. But, yeah, they basically took it as like, okay.
But, yeah, we are talking about issue number 50 of Marvel Comics Group Presents The Star Wars. This issue came out in August of 1981. We've got a lot of the same creative team as we've seen before. We got Archie Goodwin back writing this book, for better or worse. We've got Al Williamson helping out on pencils and inks. We got Walt Simonson on pencils. We got Dave Simmons on inks. Rick Bryan on inks, Tom Palmer on inks. So when a book has this many inkers,
yep.
Worry.
Well, this is giant. This is supersized giant issue. So
Sure, but having this many inkers on a book speaks to maybe there was a deadline we needed to meet.
Well, it's like we decided to do a longer one, and we're already having trouble meeting deadlines. So you know,
and we've got Don Warfield on colors.
Yes.
But let's get into this cover here. Oh yeah, and of course edited by is it Jim or James in this issue?
It's Jim in this one. Even for the 50th though, he didn't go James, which I thought
he goes back to James here in the next couple of issues. Again, I've read ahead, so it bounces back and forth for me.
I don't know what determines that.
His mood, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I'm feeling James today.
But yeah, we've got a supersized Star Wars Saga Giant 50th Collector's issue.
Yes. With a Tom Palmer cover.
Yeah, I dig this cover.
I like this cover too. It feels very 80s Marvel to me. This immediately tells you a place, but it looks good. It looks, it looks like what you. I just like the design of it though. I'm just looking at Han and Chewie in that giant dome.
Yeah, they're trapped in the red gemstone in the past. It sort of lets you know kind of what's happening in the issue metaphorically, but not literally, which I appreciate.
It is also telling you, hey kids, 50th collector's issue, regardless of the continuity, we're going to find a way to get you old buddy Han Solo back in there. Don't you worry.
Oh, yeah.
And they do.
And they do. But let us forget our good new friend, Lando Calrissian, right there on the cover as well.
Oh, and that cape. Oh, is this some of the best Lando cape art I've seen on this? Look at that cape. It's glorious.
It's beginning to approach Moon Knight levels of flaring out.
He's almost reaching Cloak levels, the Marvel character Cloak.
Well, okay.
He's getting there. He's at Moon Knight on his way to Cloak.
Cloak is 100% a man made of capes, though.
Yeah, he's a cape.
That's his whole power.
That was the original. It was Cape Man and Dagger originally.
But let's talk about the advertisement on the front here real quick. I think we'd be remiss because part of the show has been kind of us trudging through the history of comic books through the lens of this book. And so I find it interesting that right off on the cover here, it is advertised as a collector's issue.
Yeah. You're going to want to hold on to this one, kids. Bag and board this one.
Yeah, something we really haven't talked about on this show is the speculator boom of the 80s and into the early 90s in comic books specifically.
Because I think this is the first time we're really hitting it, right? That's not, we haven't really up to this point they've been fairly disposable.
But also this is very very much the first time we're encountering comic book companies grappling with that idea.
Right.
And advertising it as such, which is, of course, inevitably what killed the comic book speculation boom with...
It's because it's the classic thing of it's no longer a collector's thing if there's a bunch of them.
Yeah, exactly. So when Marvel is saying, hey, collect this thing, it'll be worth money, and so we're going to print a bunch so you all buy it and collect it.
Yeah.
The backwards thinking of that is always hilarious to me.
Yeah, it's just I don't know how you didn't catch this. I don't know. The reason old comics are valuable is people didn't keep them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Action Comics #1 is rare because it was literal garbage when it was printed.
Yeah. It's not just because, it's so cool.
But so we're right kind of at the beginning of that transition here in 81. With Marvel specifically, it's really around this time we start seeing certain event-focused books selling really, really well. We have the Mutant Massacre over in the X-Men being one of the first huge crossover events that makes people sell tons and tons of issues of multiple books because they're all tied into each other.
Trying to think. I guess it wasn't really portrayed as a collector's issue per se, but Giant Size X-Men, of course, that relaunched the X-Men is kind of one of the first of these, right? Where it's this is at least a demarcation of this is an important book. If not one to collect specifically, it's ooh man, here is a big deal. And then of course this whole thing will explode with Death of Superman, but also X-Men #1 in 92 or 91, 92. Yeah, but the Jim Lee, and that was where you need to get it all 5 covers to connect to make the Panorama battle against Magneto.
Well, and that was also the start of like X-Men and Uncanny X-Men were essentially the same book, but you had to buy both different titles to get the whole story.
It's almost like Marvel just wanted our money.
And of course, like earlier this year in 81, we have the phenomenon that was, and it cannot be overstated how popular this was at the time. Dazzler selling, I think it's 400,000 copies, which is just a bonkers number for comic books in this time.
Oh God, yeah. I mean, and actually, and even more so by today's standards. That's
true.
Crazy talk to think about. But yes, and Dazzler was a thing that they tried to manufacture, right? They tried to be like, here it is, folks. Get ready, Dazzler. And of course, the thing that never took off was the whole multimedia experiment of Dazzler was going to be a comic, a movie, a concert tour. And I mean, in some ways, they were maybe just a little ahead of their time. I'm not sure about the concerts, but but in terms of the idea of these characters being multimedia sensations.
If today we had a Dazzler movie in the MCU that was like, I don't know, a musical, and then they also had a live tour of those songs. I mean, Disney already does that with like Encanto Live and stuff that tours around.
I mean, Disney on Ice, right? That's a whole
Absolutely.
thing. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it could happen. They just haven't really. I mean, they they did make Rogers the musical. It didn't tour, but they did it at, I think, at Disney. So I mean, it certainly it's there. That and they're not going to leave anything on the table. I'm sure somebody's talking about that right now. But yes, we're in the early stages too of them starting to go like, maybe there's more than just comic book money.
So yeah, the collector's issue is just notable here on the cover here. But let's get into this actual comic book because it's a giant size one. Strap in, everybody, for 40 pages of nonstop Star Wars thrills.
Well, I will say right off the bat, I'm very happy to have Al Williamson back because we really liked Williamson's Empire Strikes Back adaptation art. And immediately, when you open this page and you've got the Millennium Falcon being pursued by TIE fighters around actual defined planets, you feel pretty good. You feel pretty good. It's not just orbs. Each of these planets has its own atmosphere and vibe. There's sort of a rocky volcano planet. There's a dark kind of moon sort of looking planet. There's a more water ice planet, maybe.
Yeah, and look, I could get super nitpicky about, like, how are all these planets so close together? But it's just a gorgeous piece of art.
It absolutely is, and it's what you want. You're like, oh, great, I'm on a Star Wars adventure.
That's space. I can recognize space.
And right, we got Chewie with his classic Varark.
Yeah, because right off the bat, we are thrown in with Chewie and Lando. They are on the Falcon here, fleeing through a Imperial-controlled sector as they're still continuing their hunt for Han Solo, which this issue and the next 2 issues will go into it a little bit more about like Han and Chewie, or not Han and Chewie, but Chewie and Lando trying to track down Han. They know where he's going.
Yeah, it gets a little dumb. I'll be honest. Like they keep having to find excuses for them not to get to where they're going.
The book treats it like they forgot where Tatooine is.
Yeah, where was that again, old buddy?
It's like, do we not have somebody on our team who lived there?
I don't know anybody from Tatooine, that's for sure.
Well, if there's a bright center of the galaxy, it is the point farthest from.
I do like this opening thing about just like, I know, Han would have done it better. Already, we're starting on the iconography, but it's telling us we're post-Empire. There's a guy at the helm who isn't normally at the helm, kids.
Yeah, because on the next page, we cut into the gunner's seat, and we see Lando in stark 80s color profile.
This is something we definitely is a return to the Empire Strikes Back adaptation, and I feel like is part of the Williamson vibe. It's sort of moody, using heavy blacks, and then like a monochromatic sort of, or in this case, maybe I guess a duochromatic, would you say? Once again, we're not art people. But the blue and red of this, and then the pink explosion. So I guess trichromatic. I'm gonna stop.
I see some whites in there, John. Does white count as a color, or is that a shade?
Oh God, quadchromatic. Quadrichromatic.
Quadrichromatic is my new band name.
Yeah, it should be. But this is great. This is once again, you're getting back into this. It does. This issue will have a lot of this, and probably because they're figuring people picking this up. There's a lot of needless, like, those years I spent as administrator at Clouds. There's a lot of going like, as you recall, Chewbacca, I was this, you know.
This whole second page is essentially Lando recapping the status quo through dialogue with Chewie, basically saying, like, well, I don't really understand Wookiees, but I, Lando Calrissian.
On this next page when he goes, it kind of seems the whole galaxy doesn't want us to reach Tatooine and rescue Han from Jabba the Hutt.
Yeah.
You know, that mission we are on.
That bounty hunter, Boba Fett, in bold. Yeah. Don't forget about Boba Fett, everyone. Never forget about Boba Fett.
I do like, no need, Chewie. Nobody wants to undo betraying him into the hands of Jabba's bounty hunter, Boba Fett. Like, it's just, there's just like a few too many words where it's instead of being like, I know, I'm sorry for betraying Han, something like that, or I wish I could undo it. Instead, it's just like the bounty hunter who was hired by Jabba the Hutt to take Han to Tatooine, you know.
Yeah. And I, who you know, am Lando Calrissian.
Yeah, there's a lot of that. That being said, the art is great. This looks like Lando. It's really nicely rendered. There's detail on every panel.
Yep.
And it's not always the case.
High flying action. We get a good sense that they're just zipping around, trying to avoid TIE fighters, trying to avoid death. Yep. And Lando's doing a subpar job of all of this while Chewie's at the helm.
Which I like. I like this is actually doing the thing we've complained about in the last few issues, which is being like, yeah, Empire changed the status quo. Now you have Lando and Chewie piloting the Millennium Falcon, and they don't have the chemistry that him and Han did.
Right.
It's a different vibe, and there's some tension here for a number of reasons.
And
that's good.
The tension is broken, though, as we have a blockade runner zipping in from out of nowhere on this next page.
What's this? A rebel blockade runner?
Now available at Sears.
Oh, yeah. Oh, there's a lot of kids. Remember to ask your parents for these toys and this.
I don't know where it came from, but I'm happy to see it.
Yeah. Which is cool. And, of course, it's Princess Leia, because if it's a rebel blockade runner in an original trilogy comic, it's probably got Princess Leia aboard.
Yeah, but Leia swoops in saying, hey, you need to come back with us. Something terrible is happening. You got to abandon the search for Han for now for plot reasons.
Yeah, and also get ready to do that for the rest of this comic. I mean, every issue until we get to Return the Jedi, because we're not allowed to save him, right. Even though we know exactly where he is. It does raise a question, which is, we always knew it's about 2 years between New Hope and Empire, right? Vaguely. The time between Empire and Jedi has always been a little bit more nebulous.
It's less than a year.
Shorter.
It's like 6 to 9 months, depending on who's writing it.
Right, because as we talked about, they do know where Han is gone.
Well, and in the more recent Marvel Star Wars comics that are covering that time between Empire and Jedi, there's this whole basically scramble for Han Solo as like a bargaining chip that happens, so he doesn't go straight to Tatooine.
And that makes a lot more sense. But they don't know where this is going, period. So
right, yeah. No, in the present, we can have this whole fun storyline involving Kira from the Solo movie showing back up, and I actually really, really like the whole Crimson Dawn stuff that's happening in the background of those comics.
I love Crimson Dawn, of course, because criminal organization in Star Wars is my jam. So no, I love all that stuff. Like, once again, and we recognize that you have the hindsight now. They know where the story's going, so they know where they can place stuff and how they move stuff around. More so than here, where they're just like, well, we can't find him.
Who's to say? Anyway, they get basically reeled back in.
Chewie's upset about this, but he's like, as I remind you, Princess Leia is in love with Han Solo. So,
Can we reestablish that, even though the last issue had her with a weird tryst with a space prince?
I don't know. I wasn't in that one, so forget about it. I guess I don't. What were Chewie and I doing? Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah. So anyway, they go. Nonetheless, several swift hops through hyperspace later, and once again to remind you, the one-time gambler, con artist, and yes, original owner of the Millennium Falcon. And then, as they point out, we're now on some sort of volcano planet, or molten rock. It's a volatile place
on the planet Golrath, which sounds like a He-Man villain.
It sure does. I don't know, Battle Cat. Can we defeat Golrath? But they talk about this is sure different than that ice planet that you were on, Princess Leia.
Yeah, this felt like the book was a little try-hardy of just like, no. Last time they were on ice planet, now they're on a fire planet.
Yeah, it's the exact opposite, so different.
I do love Lando's quip here of, does everyone's quarters come equipped with hot and cold running lava?
That actually, I could believe Lando saying that.
Totally.
But I do like, very nearly, Lando, we've taken over this played-out magma smelting plant, and the rebels are in basically a floating dome on top of just a magma cauldron, right?
Yeah. I do want to point out something on the page before that, though, when Leia is talking about the new rebel base they've got here. The Imperial forces drove us away from Hoth, asterisk. So we get the editor's note here of, as shown in Marvel's adaptation of Empire Strikes Back. Not,
maybe in the movie.
The events of Empire Strikes Back,
No, well, maybe it's in there. We can only guarantee it was in the comic. We don't really remember what was in the movie.
And that's apparently from Louise, of course, Louise Simonson, though at the time, Louise Jones.
Yeah, we love her.
Yep. But did she really feel like that was a necessary note there?
I feel like one maybe shooter might have told her it was.
Well, I maybe that's like them saying, there was a movie. Did you know that Marvel also adapted a comic book of that movie?
Yeah, in fact, check the newspaper stands now, because there might be back issues. Well, that's also an interesting point too, right? Because this is also a thing where it's like we're starting to see the direct market too. So I think some of this is like, and if you don't have those, make sure to look in the back issue bins, and we can make some more money.
But yes, in this next page, we basically get the bottled city of Kandor in a magma pit.
Yes, exactly. It's such a goofy comic book idea. You would never see this in a Star Wars movie. It's so silly.
You might see like city built into a magma pit.
It wouldn't look like this.
No, it would look like something on like Vader's castle or something.
Which is one of the raddest designs in all of Star Wars by far.
Yeah, because of course Vader has an evil castle.
Yeah, it has lava waterfalls. It does lava falls. It rules. It's one of the coolest things I've ever seen.
Lord Vader, would you like a water feature in your castle? No, something cooler.
Yeah. No, that's not nearly evil enough. Could it be more gothic in its spires?
I mean, there is a whole issue of the Star Wars comic about how he built that castle, and like there were like 9 different iterations because they needed to get it right.
He's still not happy with the design.
Admittedly, because that was the influence of an evil Sith architect, I believe, that was trapped as a ghost in a helmet. It's a whole thing.
Such a funny idea. But no, I love that. We'll get there someday. We'll also get to the IDW Young Adult series where they did Tales of Vader's Castle. Sort of their Tale from the Crypt, which was fun. All right, so anyway, of course, we got to meet up with the main characters of Star Wars, C-3PO and R2-D2. They can't make an issue without them.
Yeah, and look, they're going to be sticking right to Leia's hip from here on out, believe you me. But yeah, they're watching over Luke while Leia was away, because the whole reason Leia is bringing Lando and Chewie back is because something's wrong with Luke Skywalker. Oh no. Got
a horrible case of pink eye. It's real bad, folks.
The surgeon droid 21B says Master Luke's deterioration has been slowed, Your Majesty, but no known medical efforts seem to truly stop it.
Yeah. So we'll find out this is some kind of, I guess, space madness, if you will.
It's a space disease, like a spiritual disease, I guess.
Yes, but the thing is, like, the only physical symptom we seem to see are these red eyes, but you go insane to the point of, like, death?
No, it's red eyes, red skin, like your whole everything turns crimson.
Yeah.
And then your body like shuts down basically.
That's how it begins. The Crimson Forever.
Yeah, they call this disease the Crimson Forever.
Lord.
That sounds cool.
That is such a Could you imagine if there was a disease in modern medicine that was called the Anything Forever? It's so poetic. You know, I got to go back to Dr. Ball. What is your degree in? Poetry? Crimson Forever?
I mean, when was the last, like, big disease that, like, scarlet fever, obviously, is what they're trying to evoke here.
Right, but they didn't call it the Scarlet Forever.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
We call this disease the endless dreaming.
Yeah, exactly. I think we're going to call it the flu, but that's okay. No, endless dreaming, damn it. Yeah, so anyway, it's a death sentence.
Yeah. And Lando is even like, the what?
Yeah. I don't know, Leia. That sounds pretty crazy.
Because they talk about on this next page how that's what just everyone's been calling it, because how they found this thing, or this disease, was Luke was on a routine patrol, and they found themselves a derelict Star Destroyer.
Yeah. And then we get our first of multiple flashbacks.
Yeah, this book is just flashbacks on flashbacks.
Well, it is like, how do we fill 40 pages?
Especially, how do we fill 40 pages and get Han back?
Yeah. Oh, flashbacks, great. And I do like what you said, and like so much else that's bad in this galaxy, it came to us courtesy of the Empire. Man, the Rebel Tour Corps, everything can be blamed on these bastards.
I mean, look, has anything good ever come of a derelict Star Destroyer hoving into view?
I've never seen them board one of those and go like, look what we found. Candy. We found the Emperor's candy stash.
Thanks, Emperor Palpatine, for leaving this candy ship lying around.
My candy, you bastards.
No, my Werther's Originals.
Oh, that dude's, I mean, say what you will, he's still an old man, right? You know? Butterscotch.
But yeah, Luke and his other pilots board this floating empty Star Destroyer.
They're unnamed other pilots because they will all die.
Yeah. But they find a bunch of dead Imperials who've all turned red.
Yeah. I like the one guy going, dead?
And here's where we get our Crimson Forever, because one of the pilots says, dead? Everyone on board, Commander. Most of them fallen at their stations. Their entire bodies turned that terrible crimson. Even their eyes, all open, staring like they were looking straight on into forever.
Feels like in one of those music biopics where they come up with their hit song. They're like, wait, what did you just say? Say that again.
And one day John Lennon saw a beetle crawling across the window.
That kind of thing. Yeah, literally, I swear to God, in the Elvis biopic that was out the other year, there's a scene where somebody goes, you know, Elvis, we're just taking care of business. He's like, what? What did you just say? I said,
Elvis's mom when he was a kid. You ain't nothing but a hound dog.
It's a lot like that, but there's literally a scene where the guy goes, I said we're taking care of business. Like, taking care of business? It's like, oh, for God's sake. I'm sure that's exactly how it happened. My God. It drives me insane. Okay, anyway, yeah. Which also, what does that mean? What so needlessly poetic for they're staring straight on into forever. Good God, Jenkins.
Well, don't worry. Jenkins is going to die in the next page.
Yeah, they're all dead. Because at first I wondered, I was like, is Wedge? No, Wedge can't be here. You know, like.
No. Wedge is busy being a better pilot than this.
Wedge is the best pilot. We all know this. That's well established.
Because Luke says, okay, everyone put your masks on. We got to get out of here. This place is clearly fucked.
Why didn't they have their masks on from the start? Shouldn't that just be protocol?
I mean, no, because this is not a hard sci-fi setting.
No, yeah, I once again, I'm sorry. I ventured back into my other Star franchise where they're always putting on helmets and shit.
Being cautious about protocol and stuff.
Yeah, they're worried about that. I'm the Ripley of the group who's like, shouldn't we quarantine John Hurt before we bring him back on the Nostromo? Oh, no, don't listen to her. Anyway.
But yeah, Jenkins fine. Well, he is never given a name, but I think Jenkins is good enough.
I think Jenkins, he feels like a Jenkins to me.
If you want to hear me opine more about a different Jenkins, go watch our Punch Up Play series where we get introduced and resolve a certain Jenkins in the Mass Effect franchise.
Yes. And so, yeah, this one guy's just like, hey, man, what's this?
I found a magical rock.
I guess these are pilots, not rebel scientists. So these guys are just dumb flyboys who are like, I pick shit up.
Yeah. He found a magical stone. I mean, they don't say it's a magical stone, but it's a jewel in the ship's laboratory. And he just picked it up.
Boss.
A rock couldn't transmit a virus, right, sir? Right? Anyway, I'm going to stagger over and die now.
Oh, no. Oh, it got me.
Jenkins.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, there is I have a bad feeling about this in here.
Yeah. I mean, we're slowly beginning to establish that, like, maybe that's something that is repeated in Star Wars.
I do like the idea that this book is starting to become more Star Wars. It's like, oh, it's almost like this comic is becoming Star Wars.
Wild, yeah. But again, we're reaching a point where, like, what a Star Wars is now beginning to solidify. Before, it was the Wild West. We didn't really know.
Right. Oh, yeah. No, I was way more forgiving in the post-New Hope era. After 2 movies, though, they've made some mistakes. I've been harsher on this comic about, like, all right, I think you have a pretty good feel for it now. After Empire really expands what Star Wars is. Anyway, this guy's fucking dead.
Oh, yeah. This guy and all the other pilots are dead. And they make the decision to isolate the ship because they don't want to destroy it. The answers to what's happening could still be on this Star Destroyer, so they don't just blow it all up.
Yeah, shouldn't we vaporize that lumbering plague ship?
I mean,
by the way,
look,
Luke's rank at this point is commander. Was that the case?
Yeah, sure.
I don't remember.
Commander Skywalker. Yeah, they say that at the beginning of Empire.
Okay, so Han outranks Luke
because, well, but then you get into like the weird like iffiness of like, okay, he's the captain of his ship, sure.
They call him Captain Solo, but is that a title or is that a rank?
I don't think that's a rank within the Rebel hierarchy.
By the time we get to Jedi, they're all just generals. Even Lando somehow is a general.
Yeah, but by the time we get to Jedi, they've all been incorporated into the structure of the Rebel Alliance. At this point,
the highest possible level. But then there's also admirals, and they play fast and loose. Once again, I'm thinking too much about this.
Yeah, I mean, ask Saw Gerrera, and he's going to say that's all bullshit. You're just making up words so you can justify your actions.
That guy is a little unhinged, though.
But he's got some points. That's all I'm saying. Yeah.
Well, no, he does. But I was just saying, is that a hot take? That guy might be a little unstable. And I love Saw Gerrera, the rebel who was too much of a rebel for the rebels. Yeah, that guy seems like he's just a murderer at a certain point.
So anyway, they don't blow up the plague ship, but Luke is still kind of in this semi-vegetative state as the disease is gripping him.
Yeah, but everybody else is dead, right? Isn't that the thing? It's like Luke is the only one, and I do love this whole thing about like, I don't know, maybe it's the Force that's keeping him alive.
I mean, Leia even says perhaps his way with the Force has enabled him to fight it better.
Yeah, but it'll probably kill him still.
It's killed everybody else, so I don't know why they would assume otherwise.
And then Lando having to state the obvious, going, Leia, I think it's that jewel they found. It's like, yeah, we figured that out, Lando.
Thanks, Lando.
Yeah. But Chewie seems to recognize this. There's a distinct work.
Yeah, and even Leia's like, look, Han once told me something that happened to you too, a misadventure of sorts, which took you beyond the known galaxy, and it involved a treasure that sounds a lot like this gemstone we found.
And then this is something that doesn't play out when we really get the story of just like, no, We swore never to tell this tale.
I actually really like this beat because this is when we find out why Chewie's upset.
But it's just an embarrassment thing.
It's an embarrassing story that Chewie didn't want Han spreading around.
I don't know, but the thing is just like it's treated with such gravity. It's like his embarrassment might potentially cost Luke his life. I like it in theory, maybe not in execution.
Well, to be fair, like it's not as though this book drags on Chewie resisting telling this story. Once we get to it, we get to it.
It is more like, okay, fine, I'll tell you what happened.
Yeah, all it takes is Leia in this one panel saying, please, Chewie, you must realize how much is at stake here. If there's any connection between the red gems you mentioned and this one causing the Crimson Forever, we have to know. And Chewie's like, rogue.
Do you like the coloring error of her jacket and undershirt changing colors?
Oh, I didn't notice that. Oh, you're absolutely right.
She's wearing white under orange, and then here she's wearing white over orange on the next panel.
Well, and in the previous page, she's not even wearing a jacket. It's just white.
I guess because they went outside.
I guess they went outside. Why would you need to wear a jacket on a volcano planet?
Get chilly on this lava dome. You know how volcanoes are, man.
Yeah, somewhere on Mustafar, there's a guy in a parka.
Yeah. Oh boy, so cold out here. Anyway, so yeah, here's the story.
First we get Luke fighting the disease in metaphor.
Yeah, because they are like, how do we get Vader in here? How do we get Vader in here? Okay,
and so, but as the group moves towards a quiet spot where C-3PO can translate the Wookiee's tale, there's a strange activity in the medical ward they have left. Activity that takes place within the virus-tortured mind of Luke Skywalker.
Where he is shredded. In better shape than Mark Hamill ever was. And Mark Hamill was in damn good shape in Empire. He never looked like this.
It was never cut, yeah.
No. But he's in the red mist. He can't escape. But there is more here than mist, young Jedi.
As, Darth Vader comes wading out of the mist. We get this force vision of Luke fighting Vader.
This is my favorite line in here on the next page is, no, I can't fight the man who may be my own father. We don't know. We only have the information of the movie.
I mean, yeah, that's the wild part. Like, there are people at the time who was like, is Vader just lying?
People really thought that. I didn't realize that because, of course, we always had that it was, of course, it was the truth because we had the next movie immediately. But yeah, there were people who, I was talking to Brendan about this, that was like some of his friends. That was the talk on the schoolyard and stuff at that time. It was like, no, he's lying to him, man. He's just screwing with him. To which I mean, that is very kid logic, but I'm like, that would have been pretty boring if he was just like, no, you got me. I was just screwing with you.
I mean, not to get in.
No, I know.
Do you know what I'm going to say?
They do it and it's dumb. This is
the sequels? Yeah.
Yep.
It's exactly what they do with Rey.
Yeah.
And it's just the opposite.
Well, maybe because one filmmaker wrote one answer and another filmmaker decided he didn't like that answer.
Yeah.
But now you've done it, Gorgoni. Now you poke the bear, son of a bitch.
I know. Look, we had our issue called The Last Jedi. It's always going to come back around.
Yeah. By the way, I put all blame on that third movie. Last Jedi is great. All right. Just for those that, I don't want. And then over yonder are Obi-Wan and Yoda. Hello.
Yeah.
Hello.
As they say, because Luke turns and runs from Vader, but then Obi-Wan and Yoda in like ghosty form show up and say, no, get back there, kick his ass, Luke.
I like these. Like, I won't embrace the dark side of the Force, which means I will just book it. And they're like, no, that's not the answer either, man.
Well, the idea that like you can't run away from the problems that are stalking you, right? Because this is all just a metaphor.
Yeah, and it all will have to come to nothing because they have to hold water until the next movie.
Right. But specifically, this is a metaphor for Luke fighting the disease that's in him.
Right. And so, the disease, confusion fills the fever-dreaming mind of the young student of the Force. Yoda looks like Yoda, though, which I appreciate.
And we, really, they double down on, this is a metaphor when we get a shot of Vader all in pink inside the red gemstone that is what the cause of this disease.
Correct.
So Luke is confronting the disease itself in the form of Vader by like grappling with it directly and holding it at bay. Because if he chose to run and flee from it, then the virus would overtake him.
Right. And so he's
holding it off for now.
But Darth Vader's killing stroke doesn't do anything. He's untouchable. And then an arms folded Chewbacca is like, all right, here we go. Here's the story. I'm going to hate this.
As C-3PO pieces together an incredible story. And we get inside this comic book, Chapter 2.
Yeah, it's an okay story.
It's an alright story. Rage in the Red Nebula.
Yeah. Here we go. Chewbacca, Chapter 2. Chewbacca's story. And now we're back to the crew we're used to, Han and Chewie at the helm of the Falcon.
And they're having just completed a mission for the Rebel Alliance. They're in the midst of fleeing from 2 Star Destroyers.
Yes. So yeah, when was this supposed to be completing?
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
All right.
Presumably, it must have taken place sometime between A New Hope and Empire, but based on this comic book's timeline, no idea.
Yeah, no, it's a little confusing that they're doing a mission for the Rebel Alliance when they probably weren't. Anyway, now, yeah, and so they're like, and Han's like, I miss dealing drugs, basically.
He does. He says, I wish we were still smuggling spice, which is a drug.
Those were the days, man. I gotta tell you, man, our drug dealing days were great.
I mean, look, easy profit, no imperial entanglements. I tend to agree with him.
Yeah. Remember when we were filling the stars with poison? Those were the days, my friend.
Hey, they never dealt in death sticks, just spice.
No, yeah. They drew the line at death sticks. Hey, what about some death sticks?
They leave that to Sleaze Bagano.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Oh, the greatest name in the history of Star Wars. All right. And so they're like, oh shit, Star Destroyers, we better get out of here. And so he has Chewie calculate an escape route.
And they jump to some sci-fi nonsense.
Absolute nonsense. What the hell is this place? This is we're in total Kirby town.
Somebody told Al Williamson, just lots of spaceships. Just lots of spaceships.
I don't really care what they look like. Just go. Lots. Numbers are more important here. This is quantity over quality, folks.
They are arriving on a trade world called Terminus.
That's exactly right.
And they're hoping to get lost in the shuffle here.
And that's easy to do because it is jam-packed.
Yeah, there's stuff that looks like Kirby. There's stuff that looks straight out of, still Jack Kirby, but like his 2001 book.
There's some Flash Gordon, there's some Battlestar Galactica, there's some Buck Rogers in here. There's everything you want, pretty much. Every space thing in the world is here.
I like the one that's just I'm not to put too fine a point on it, but like just a string of anal beads.
No question, that's exactly what it is. Well, let's turn the page and then look at those monsters.
That one's just a big orb.
Yeah. It honestly, it looks like a full bag of trash that somebody put a jet engine on. Look at that thing.
Look, that's one way to get rid of garbage. Just launch it into the sun.
Nothing can go wrong there. And so, they hide the Falcon. And, I don't know why. And now they're on foot.
Well, they want to just hang out on this planet for a little while, and if they stash the Falcon, they can just hang out here until the Empire basically forgets about them, until the star meter goes down.
Yes, exactly. No place for a couple of footloose star hoppers. Stop trying to make star hoppers happen.
Look, it's happening, John. You can't stop it.
Yeah, in this comic. And then another one that is a very, once again, the good one just has certain things that are so him, is all set, big buddy, from Han. What? Big buddy.
Not now, Chewie. I'm trying to think the name of that cantina where those 2 swamp maidens danced.
Yeah. What did these 2 get up to last time they were here? I don't think I want to know.
Hooking up with some swamp maidens.
Yeah. Anyway, out of the shadows comes a green cloaked figure
who shoots them both. I like how it looks like he just fucking nails them with this giant Magnum handgun.
Well, how you come back from a Fredak, man? I mean, that's all. He had that thing set to Fredak.
I like the little turtle in the foreground. It's just like, oh god.
Yeah, he's going shapow.
Han and Chewie are shot. It looks like he kills them.
It really does. Look at particularly Han has just been murdered.
Yeah. On the next page, we'll find out it was set for stun. But again, this book and all the books, it seems like, doesn't know what the stun setting looks like.
Nope. And it's so weird because it actually looks very comic booky in the movie.
Right, the weird like blue circle that comes out of
that's totally because the way you can have it emanate into the larger rings is such a comic book thing, and yet no.
Is that a later like technical edit that Lucas made to like differentiate the stun setting?
I don't think
I'm gonna say and admit, I guess, I've never seen the original theatrical cut of Star Wars. It's really hard to find these days.
I mean, I saw it when I was a kid, but yeah, it's been.
Even the VHSs I had been tinkered with. Like that movie famously was already like slightly changed before it came to home video.
We had the New Hope, the very, very first New Hope release when it was still a CBS Fox. And my dad still has it as a collector's item. I don't think for any value. I think he just did. But like, yeah. Sure. So I think that version that I saw as a kid, I think was about as untampered. I think the only thing that had been added there was it did say episode 4.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I think none of the effects had been. But yes, I do remember that first black box that had the helmets on it was a remastered version of some, and then pretty quickly the special editions. Yeah, I mean, no, famously Lucas is. I mean, even the thing about the McClunky and stuff like that. Even when it came to Disney Plus, like son of a bitch, there's still something in there that's different. How is this possible?
Yeah. Anyway, turns out it was set to stun. They're fine.
Yeah, they're fine. And this droid saved them?
No, this droid's just checking up on them. They're locked in a cargo hold somewhere, and they have this exchange with this little vacuum cleaner droid. I love how snarky he is.
He is that's typical. Blame the poor droid. I'm only following program procedure, but go ahead. Get angry at me. I didn't stun blast you. I didn't put those energy shackles on you. But who gets roared at? Who gets abused for merely doing his job? What is this Flintstones character that has rolled up on us?
It's a living.
Yeah, good Lord. Oh, boy.
I don't have time to chat. There are a lot of prisoners to wake up, but as long as you're asked more or less nicely, this is an intergalactic bulk freighter, the Nova Prince. You and everyone else here have been impressed into service.
I just love the idea of a droid whose attitude is like, ugh.
It's a job.
Yeah, what are you doing? Yeah, it's just like, God, I just clocked in for this bullshit. This is not worth $12.50 an hour, I'll tell you that right now.
Because, it turns out Han and Chewie have been shanghaied, basically.
Yes, absolutely. And so they go, okay, Silver Treads. Okay.
I love Han just coming up with just offhanded nicknames for people as soon as he meets them.
Comic book Han loves a nickname, man.
Mm-hmm.
And so, so they're on their cruise to the Red Nebula.
Yeah, and what the Red Nebula is, we'll learn here soon enough. But we are introduced very quickly to some kind of extra from Nosferatu.
Yeah, I did that. This is Count Orlok's cousin. But
this is Spokesman Klisk.
Yeah, this feels like an off-brand Spock too. Like,
yeah.
It's just like, well, we can't really get the Star Trek license, so this is, Star Adventure.
But he's got like a thinner face, and he's got an evil countenance. He definitely looks like Orlok.
Yeah, it's Orlok-y for sure.
We've got Count Orlok at home.
Yeah, no, it absolutely is that. It's like, I tried to draw the Nosferatu vampire, but I blew it. And we're gonna stick with it though. And yes, he's the one that is selling them into slavery, basically.
Well, he's not selling them. He has recruited them against their will, but he is...
so great. He's just using them as slaves. He's not selling them into it. Great.
Yeah. He is saying, look, I want your cooperation in this. We're going to a place that I'm going to loot and pillage, and you're all going to help me. And you'll get to keep whatever treasure you can steal. I just need some very specific items for myself.
And this is spokesman Klisk, right?
Yes, exactly. And he's explaining this to everyone. And he's also explaining that, like, okay, we're going to release you from your chains, but you're going to get a little wristband that lets you back into the club after you leave. But it'll also kill you if you disobey.
Hold out your hand for this stamp, otherwise you won't be able to get back in. Also, this wristband says you're over 21 and can go to the bar. Yeah.
And you need a second wristband to let you know into the VIP section.
Yeah, all right. Now pay attention. These colors are very important. And so, yeah, yes, he's recruited them for a job here because he's like, well, you're already smugglers and thieves and shit, so go at it.
Yeah. He demonstrates the power of the little wristband he's given everyone by shocking the hell out of Han.
Ah!
That was a demonstration held in the charge. To minimum, there will be no further such consideration.
Oh, he's gonna fuck them up if they mess around again. And so there they go. His ship is very weird when we turn the page.
Yeah, it's like Star Trek adjacent. They've got like kind of a big empty circle on the top and a weird little jet propeller on the bottom.
It's like he started drawing the Enterprise at the bottom and no, too similar. Screw with the top and make it weird and like pointy instead of a saucer.
And no nacelles.
Yeah, the engines are just resting on the hull of it there. So whatever. Anyway, also what is Klisk doing here? He's disappearing into like a energy.
Well, they say on the previous page that it's a hologram, but like this isn't what a Star Wars hologram looks like. I think Al Williamson was just like, a hologram is just a weird floating head in space.
Some kind of temple and those jewels on display. Never saw anything that large before.
Yeah, because Klisk is showing them like what they're looking for, the exact items that he wants. These smugglers and lowlifes are allowed to loot whatever they want from this temple, except for these two jewels. These two jewels belong to Klisk.
Those are Klisk's, baby.
But Han says you could buy a whole Imperial fleet with just one of those things.
He's like, yeah, that's the point. Why do you think I want them?
Well, Klisk says the group he represents, because he is spokesman Klisk. He is speaking for a group of individuals.
They don't ever really get into it, and that's honestly fine. That's fine.
They're returning from years of exile to a place that they have been driven from.
Because, God forbid, this already flashback doesn't have way more backstory.
But weirdly enough, it will tie into everything that's happening.
I know. I mean, it's all reasonably well constructed.
Yeah. But they come out of hyperspace, and what's this? Oh no, asteroid field.
Mm-hmm. I don't know who this lizard guy is. There's a Sleestack that suddenly shows up in this comic.
I like Williamson's aliens. They feel Star Warsy to me.
They much more so than Infantino.
Yeah.
God. And so Han can get them through this, right?
Yeah. Basically, Klisk is saying, like, look, we've got a NAFA computer. That'll get us through. Meanwhile, these asteroids are freaking huge. And Han's like, look, I'm a Corellian. I can fly a ship. Doesn't matter the ship. You put me at the helm. I'm going to get us through this, and no one's going to die.
Turn the page, and he does.
And he does.
Yeah, he's pretty good.
Each long moment that follows seemed certain to be the last to every hand aboard the massive bulk freighter. Still, Han Solo stays at the sluggish controls, fighting, cursing, coaxing, until we're out of it.
No. All right. I will be in my bunk if anybody needs me.
They have found their way to the heart of the Red Nebula.
Which, of course, lies beyond the known galaxy, as we heard earlier, so...
Yeah, they go into a little bit of backstory here about how there was some kind of cataclysmic cosmic event that sundered an arm of the galaxy off and created this nebula that's just slowly drifting out into the void.
This never comes back in any other Star Wars thing, I would imagine.
I mean, we've dealt a little bit with like what exists beyond the galaxy's edge in other Star Wars stuff. I mean, famously, the Yuuzhan Vong are not of this galaxy.
Yes, this specifically, I guess, is what I'm saying, though.
Oh, the Red Nebula specifically?
Yeah, I don't think that ever comes back in anything I've ever seen.
Let me look.
I'm always
real
curious.
quick.
I always ask
Yeah.
this on the show because I'm always curious if, nobody forgets anything. Somebody read this comic as a kid. When they're writing their Star Wars thing, they might include a reference. Because we've seen that, too, where it's like, oh, it was mentioned in this novel as existing. Even if it's, it doesn't really do with anything, actually.
I mean, this is definitely its first. Wow, the Wikipedia page on this is surprisingly long. It will be mentioned again in this comic. It has been mentioned in a bunch of like Star Wars encyclopedias and stuff over the year. It's apparently included in the Essential Atlas, which is behind me. So I could go look right now. I won't, just for the pace of the show.
Yeah, that's probably for the best. But that is interesting that does give it a level of legitimacy I was not expecting.
And I will say, in canon, as of right now, the Red Nebula is a nebula located in wild space at coordinates G21 on the standard galactic grid map. So it still exists on all like the canon maps that exist.
Would never have expected that.
And apparently it's like still mentioned in like RPG books and stuff to this day. So like, yeah,
okay,
it's not important in any story sense, but it's stuck around.
But it's there. It's there. All right. Yeah. I mean, that's what I said. That's more solid than the continuity of a lot of this stuff. So
yeah, fair enough.
Anyway, let's land on this planet and look around.
Yeah, Klisk leads this group of ragtag bounty hunters and smugglers and whatnot off into this planet, and they find just a blasted landscape that has been pockmarked and destroyed by falling meteorites and asteroids.
Yep. And I just like, it's like, this has the charm of a Class D moon, Chewie. You know what I'm talking about.
It's a real D of a moon, if you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, that's what I mean. And then what's this? There is a giant valley untouched by the media bombardment. That's insane, because the rest of the planet is been reduced to nothing, basically.
Basically, yeah. So Chewie and Han get to the top of this rise and like, whoa, this is weird, right?
Pretty kooky, you guys.
Either it's a freak of terrain or this place is charmed.
And then this total weirdo Klisk is like, take any plunder you wish. It is yours to keep. All except those 2 great gems.
Now attack! Attack!
Go! Attack is a weird thing for like, go steal stuff. Attack!
Also, they're just looking down into this like jungle valley with a couple of temples sticking out of it, and he's just like, kill everything!
It's just like, whoa, buddy, I'm not sure we need this kind of aggressive energy here. We're just gonna look around. I mean, they don't even know if anyone's there.
Well,
turns
out there's somebody there, because on the next page, immediately as these goons start running into the woods, they start getting vaporized.
Which I do like Han going, come on, it's only a couple of laser cannons. Well, that's pretty bad, Han.
Though his turn right here is just like, since when did I become so brave?
Yeah, I know. They do have to acknowledge it's pretty out of character, actually. Yeah, and so they get around them.
Yeah, they get at least Han and Chewie make it around.
Han and Chewie do. Yeah, I assume everyone else was slaughtered.
Most of them.
Yeah,
and they get to the temple, and thankfully Han says he was able to short circuit the punishment manacles that are on them. So even if they can steal some loot and get out of here, they're not going to get exploded, because that's what Chewie's worried about.
Yeah, don't worry. Stop being worried about getting exploded again, Chewie. Damn it.
Stop sniffling at shadows. Nothing to be nervous about. There's what we're after right there, and there's not even a guard in sight.
I will say this too. I am surprised this is, as we talk about, Archie Goodwin's writing is hit or miss more than the Infantino art we're generally pretty disappointed by. But like Goodwin's writing of these characters is pretty on point here.
Yeah. It's a lot of Chewie being like, I don't know about this, Han, and Han being like, would you quit your belly aching? Let's steal some stuff and get out of here.
Mm-hmm. That's and then what's this?
Yeah, now we need our second exposition character of the day, and that is somebody else of Klisk's same species, but is just like a weird priest living in this temple.
Yeah, it's Klisk, but in a purple robe, basically, is the design here.
And talk about hit or miss when Han says, who the blazes are you?
Yeah, that's where we lose it. Can you imagine Harrison Ford saying blazes? Who in the blazes are you? Really?
But he says he's one of the temple priests. He's guarding the great life jewels, as they're called.
Great life jewels, yep.
Legend says the jewels fell to the planet during the awesome cataclysm, which severed our cluster from the galaxy and created the Red Nebula. It is our belief that the gem's aura protects us from the destructive fate which seemed to be the destiny from the time of the cataclysm.
And Han's like, that's great. We're going to steal those.
Also, what if it isn't?
Yeah.
Just saying.
Also, when we cut outside, I love that the werewolf from I Was a Teenage Werewolf got more work.
Look, there is a long, proud tradition of like weird wolf people in Star Wars, and it kind of starts here.
Oh, I love werewolf in a leather jacket
with a gun.
Yeah. Kapow! Gotcha.
Yeah, because we see 3 other reprobates making their way to the temple as well outside. Yeah. So just as Han is about to snag the gems,
one of them has the face of the guy from the cantina in the first movie. I don't remember which one he is.
Oh, the weird, like, messed up face guy?
Yeah.
That's Dr. Evazan, but no.
That is Dr. Evazan. I can never remember which one is which, but he's the one that had a doctorate somehow.
Yes. Well, it's a doctorate in being wanted in 12 systems.
That's right, yeah. It's an honorary doctorate of crime.
Yeah, and his buddy Ponda Baba doesn't like you.
Right, yeah.
And I don't like you either.
I don't like you either. But yeah, they sort of... And then we got here this weird, like, kind of hammerhead elephant guy.
Yeah, he's got, like, a weird long nose. He's a very Star War-y looking alien.
Well, absolutely. These guys definitely... It's nice to see Star Wars creatures in the Star Wars book. I don't believe it. But it's, yeah.
If this was Infantino, that blue guy would have a horn nose, and that wolf guy would look like Cap Wolf.
Yep. He's in jeans. It's a werewolf in jeans, folks.
Love a werewolf in jeans.
I know. It's great. I love a casual werewolf. And so they're just like, whoop! Not so fast.
Yeah, because these 3 pull guns on Han and Chewie, saying like, "All right, you're not walking out of here. We're taking those gems."
And then leads to what is definitely the weirdest part of this issue, right?
As the priest says, "Be warned, off-worlders. There is a reason we do not go armed in this place. For there is another inhabitant of our valley who holds the jewel sacred and acts as their guardian." And out comes Sasquatch, if they were also Beast from the X-Men.
I was going to say, comes a long-lost relative of Hank McCoy. Because, it's basically a giant beast.
It looks a little bit like the giant monster from the Ewoks TV movie.
Yeah, yeah.
Which obviously wouldn't come out till years later. But,
yeah.
But also blue.
But also, well, because it's a Marvel comic. Let's not forget.
Yeah.
They like their colors. And everybody, oh no, this thing is just picking these guys up like they're toys.
Oh, it just absolutely demolishes these other reprobates. I do like the captioning here, as mind-numbing shot makes the mercenaries hesitate before firing. Having hesitated, they are lost.
And then, presumably, completely obliterated.
And Chewie's like, "Honk!" And Han's response here is great.
Run for it. Are you kidding, Chewie? While that thing's tossing those guys around, we can grab the jewels.
Classic Han Solo.
That is very Han Solo. That is just like, this is an opportunity to make a profit.
But the towering guardian is not occupied long, and as the Millennium Falcon's captain and first mate act, great gleaming eyes fall on them. A strange, low growl echoes through the chamber.
I love this close-up of this thing being like, yeah!
It's got this big, like, toothy grin on its face as it turns and looks at them.
Also, I feel like the scale of it changes, though, because the way it seems to be much bigger when it picks up Chewie than when it's holding these other guys who are presumably not as big as Chewie.
I mean, it's not as dramatic as, like, size-changing Yoda, which will always give me nightmares, but,
yeah.
you know.
But it's really just the one where the hand grabs it, because then all of a sudden, I feel like, and then, oh god, this is so weird.
On the next page, a hand swoops in, grabs Chewie like a doll. As Han is grabbing the gems.
Oh, Chewie, no, oh god.
So, and Han asking the priest is like, but I grabbed the gems. Why did it go for Chewie?
Because it thinks Chewie's its baby.
The Guardian is female,
weird.
The last of her species. Lower your weapon. God. It is not necessary. Obviously, she sees your friend as a cub.
Yeah, it just wants to raise Chewbacca. It's fine.
It is going full... Oh, what is the big furry guy's name in Looney Tunes who captures Bugs Bunny all the time?
I know. Yeah.
You know who I'm talking about, but it's always like some Yeti or big monster's like, I will pet... I mean, I will pet him and stroke him and love him and call him George.
Yep. Yeah. Oh, man, it's so weird that that's the way this plays out.
I mean, because this big blue monster grabs Chewie and he's just like, oh, this cute little thing, I will have it as my baby.
Yep. He is mine now.
And Chewbacca's just like, Rrrg.
Just kill me. Just fucking kill me, Han.
And I do, again, Han's response here, I think it's pretty on point. Embarrassing. Yeah. It's great.
Yeah.
just cuddle up and keep her happy.
Yeah, I'll just get these jewels out of here. You keep the big mama monster happy, and we're all good. This to me, and it's just in the gutter, and the way this cuts basically is where the guy goes, beware, off-worlder, we priests prefer to avoid violence. Klisk and his faction are guided only by what they believe is their ultimate destiny. Han shrugs and strikes with the tip. That's very Han Solo. He's just like, sure, yeah, whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, as he comes back to Klisk's ship with a bunch of other goons wandering on with loot.
Well, they're just like, that guy's totally going to betray you and probably murder you. And he's like, yeah, that might happen. I don't know. What else?
You win some, you lose some.
Yeah, this is how this shit works, man. Story of my life.
Basically every relationship Han Solo has ever been in.
Yep. All right then. Anyway, bye. That did make me laugh reading that. And so he goes, okay, I've got your stuff, Klisk, but Han has a few demands.
And Klisk is like, oh, come on, no, hand it over.
I think we all see who has the upper hand here. It's Klisk, baby.
Because Klisk has figured out that Han has short-circuited the destruction wristband that he gave him. Yeah. So hand over those stones, and I'm going to maroon you here. And
here's a question. How many mercenaries were on this ship? Because we saw a bunch killed by laser cannon, then 3 more killed by the giant beast, but then there's still like 5 guys here to pull guns on Han.
Well, and we also know that Klisk had people that were with him before, and that he was just using the people they kidnapped as cannon fodder, basically.
Right, so I guess these were mercenaries he hired and the rest were ones he kidnapped?
Or they're also people from here that left with Klisk when they were first,
banished. It's unclear. They're just hands holding guns, except for this green guy.
Yeah, I don't know. Just
actually,
Klisk has a bunch of guys on his side.
Now that I see this, though, when we get the reverse shot here of Klisk going up the platform, one guy has a squid arm?
Sure.
Hey, why not?
Yeah, it's just got one big long tentacle for an arm. Yeah, why not?
All right. Hey, what do you want? All right.
But Han says, look, you need me. You need me to get through the asteroid field. And Klisk, in a genius maneuver, says, we'll just go a different way.
We didn't think of that the first time, but this time...
Real galaxy brain move here on Klisk's part.
It's amazing. We'll just go around it this time. Ha-ha!
Turns out space works in 3 dimensions. Who'da thunk?
God damn it. That's hilarious, but objectively bad writing, right? No offense. Archie Goodwin's done a mostly good job, but that's pretty dumb.
And also, our computer can just do it on automatic.
Yeah. I don't know why we needed you in the first place. We all went insane for 10 minutes. And so this other guy, big eared guy is like, well, now you've gone and done it, Han Solo.
Yeah. Because Han is marooned here by Klisk. Klisk takes off thinking he has the gems. And Han Solo is confronted by the priest, who says, like, you absolute idiot.
Yeah. That the only thing protecting us were those gems, and now you're stuck here and you're gonna die with the rest of us. And Han's like, nah.
Yeah. Because what's this? It turns out underneath the ancient temple there's a big technological base. There's like, yeah. We make the upstairs look like an ancient decrepit crypt, but down here, like, we've got technology. We live in space.
This whole story is so insane. He's like, wait a minute, you had all this stuff down here the whole time? Oh, of course.
Look, down in the rumpus room, it's fully furnished.
Yeah. And over there is my pool table.
So he brings him over to the big screen TV.
Yeah. Yeah, he's got the biggest screen in the galaxy.
172 inches, baby.
Yeah, you should be here for movie night. 4K. And so, they're just like, there it goes, and turn the page, everybody's dead.
Because it turns out Klisk's whole plan here was to steal these gems and then fly his spaceship into the sun. So he did go a different way straight into the sun.
I guess he did need Han Solo after all. Yeah, and it's like, well, there you go.
Because the priest here, who never actually gets a name, he's just referred to as the priest.
Yep.
Says that Klisk's people were banished specifically because they thought that this whole planet's destiny was to die when the Great Cataclysm happened.
Yep.
And that those two gemstones that were preserving things were some kind of, like, heretical fallacy that kept them alive.
Yep.
And so Klisk's whole mission was to grab these gemstones that was protecting this place and blow himself up in the sun.
It's so weird that was what it was.
Mission accomplished.
So weird. And Han's like, oh, geez, I'm really glad I didn't go up there then.
So Han's just like, oh, that reward unparalleled Klisk kept talking about? Oh, so it was like a metaphor for death. Got it.
Well, that sucks. And so, and it's just like, well, it's too bad because I guess they won because now the planet will be destroyed. And then Han's like, actually, and we turn the page, he goes, yeah, I didn't give him the gems, actually.
Yeah, following the confession and some serious negotiation, Han leads the temple priest to the grove near the valley's edge. As the priest is like, you are a devious man, Captain Solo.
Which is true. Han being sneaky, pretty on point.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like, all right, Chewie, time to go home.
Because, it turns out he stowed the gems in this little glade. But then we get a brief warning from the priest being like, oh, shit, the gems got separated briefly. You stand back or else you're going to die. There's a red corpse over here that I need to go take care of.
Right.
Tying it back to the main plot. Yeah.
Right. It is almost like the comics like, oh, right, the disease, of course. Jesus. I forgot about that part.
So it turns out if these gemstones are separated,
yep,
it causes this weird red plague to happen.
And then I really do feel bad for Chewie, who seems to be in a lot of turmoil here.
Yeah, when the big blue hairy beast is trying to kiss him on the cheek, I can understand.
Like,
Yeah,
no
Chewie's
way.
Not consenting to this baby role play that he's been trapped in.
Yeah, and then I also like this thing about like, there's a lot of convenience in this. There's some goofy writing in this, like this, where it's just like, oh, you had a spaceship the whole time. It's like, of course, we just never needed it.
Well, he also says, like, look, we've got spaceship for, like, 1s and 2s. We can't evacuate everybody.
Yeah, just so, but yeah, you guys can have it, I guess.
Yeah, so Han and Chewie are given a spaceship, and they get out of the Red Nebula and head back to normal space, and Chewie says, well, that was super embarrassing. Let's never talk about it ever again.
And you can tell, I love the panel of embarrassed Chewie with his hand on 3PO being like, I'm so ashamed.
I actually love 3PO's line here, which
Yep,
is a little bit of lampshading of the bad writing here.
Is it ever? because it makes no sense.
S3PO
and they acknowledge it makes no sense.
Of course, some of it is based on things he didn't actually see, but only found out later from Captain Solo.
And by that, I mean, like, the entire end of the story.
So
it wasn't there for any of it.
All of this was a story that 3PO was telling, translated from Chewie who got it from Han. This is all bullshit, right?
This is hearsay of hearsay, that's...
Yeah. Like fourth-hand information.
Yeah, no, this is not admissible, counselor. Yeah, this is anyway, though, it ends up being right, though, because, oh God, it's Commander Skywalker. He's succumbed to the Crimson forever, just like the other says, the oldest rebel pilot I've ever, and appears, I think this guy's blind.
No, that's Hunter S. Thompson. He is one of the most,
hey man, you gotta come on here.
He's one of the most outrageous rebel fighters that has ever lived.
Yeah, actually, none of this was, Luke's fine. This was just an acid trip gone bad for Hunter. Hi, man. Anyway, it's bad country. All right. Well, they're like, all right, it's time for Chapter 3, because this comic never ends.
Against the Scarlet Knight.
That's pretty dramatic for this.
Yeah, it's pretty dramatic.
And then even more dramatic is starting with the void, black, starless, empty, except for an angry mass of swirling scarlet, the Red Nebula.
We are solidly in some Walt Simonson
art,
are we?
Oh, yeah. No, the shift into Simonson art is very clear.
And
things get a little bit more
expressionistic.
Expressionistic was the word I was looking for, and way weirder.
Oh yeah, I dig it. I really like.
We're Simonson people, so that you'll never hear anything bad from us. But yeah, I mean, just look at suddenly the faces of everyone on the Falcon. It's like he's still it's still Billy D. Williams and Carrie Fisher, but look at the shadows, look at the line work on it. It's very different than the very clean, realistic Williamson stuff.
Yeah. And especially like as we get into the next page, and like that's a Walt Simonson hand if I've ever seen one.
Oh God, absolutely.
I love the interiority we get on Chewie here on this next page, because they're taking the Falcon to go back to the Crimson or
the Red Nebula.
The Red Nebula. Sorry, Red, Scarlet, Crimson. They're using a lot of synonyms here.
Yeah, pick a lane, man.
But they're trying to go back to the Red Nebula to figure out, like, maybe we can find what happened with these gemstones here.
Right.
But what's this? There's a ship dead ahead, and then suddenly Chewie has a war flashback.
I thought this was, I like the idea of this. Once again, they just mentioned a ship exists. He's like, a ship? You know who has a ship? Boba Fett.
You know what Boba Fett did? Capture Han Solo.
Right. And then I like that immediately Lando's like, yeah, it's in nowhere near the same size ship. There's a lot of ships, man. Get out of here.
Also, Lando saying, easy, big guy. I can guess what you're thinking. Can you?
You heard someone say ship, which obviously made you think that Boba Fett has a ship. And Boba Fett took your best friend.
Yeah.
I know this Wookiee, princess. Trust me. That's what's going through his head right now.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's not psychotic at all. If anything, now I'm starting to worry that Chewie's a liability.
I mean, look, Chewie has gone through a lot. He's lost his best friend. He's got a life debt to repay that he can't do.
He's going to end up, it's going to be this like, X-Wing fighters, grab your helmets. Helmets? You know who wears a helmet? Boba Fett! Where?
But no, instead we get a radical callback, as it is a mining explorer from the House of Tag.
I could not, when they said Tag, I was like, woo!
Yeah.
I know those people.
And we get a big hulking junker of a ship in like true Walt Simonson fashion. This looks like something that Beta Ray Bill would be found on.
Oh, 100%. There's so many of, if not the specific design, so many of the examples of the vibe of his Thor run. My God, it's really it's as Simonson as you can get here.
And we get like a big red blob of space nonsense in the background that's very Kirby-esque.
Very much so. It's that thing where it's like it's not a sky full of planets or anything, but it's also not the just like Infantino, like I don't know, orbs. There's a design to it that's fantastic. And so yeah, they get pulled into this tag ship.
Well, they land specifically.
No, that's right. Okay. That's what it is. Sorry, they land against Lando's like, I don't know about this. Although it's a total Han Solo move because he literally pulls it in Empire.
Well, and specifically they're landing on this ship because it's kind of in their way to the Red Nebula. And if we know anything from this story so far, I feel like they should be very cautious about entering derelict ships with all the stuff they've been dealing with lately.
Well, they do. This time they do suit up.
It's true. They put on a couple of helmets, and they find a bunch of dead bodies on this ship that have all turned red.
They're all turned red.
The Crimson forever.
Guess that means before John and pray Han and Chewie spot checked these suits recently for leaks. I'm just now saying, as I and I I thought you liked gambling. Depends on the odds, Your Highness. That's all good stuff.
Yeah, this is good.
Yeah.
And then, okay, so House of Tag, great callback.
Yep.
Now we get into some true and blue fan service as they're poking around, checking bodies to try to find a second gemstone.
Yeah.
And then who's this who turns the quarter? IG-88.
What's the... Yeah, I did go, what? Now, it doesn't make no sense that the bounty hunters now work for Tag, but it doesn't make a ton of sense either.
It makes as much sense as anything, John, in my opinion.
That's the thing. IG-88 had you covered. Fall in without resisting or die. And it's Domina Tag. No!
Yeah, next page. Who's this that's hired all those bounty hunters you liked?
I just like...
There's Dengar, there's Bosk.
This is the thing that gets me. If she had hired IG-88, I'd be like, okay, it's like, you just are like, you guys are done working for Vader? Come work for me. The exact same crew. They don't travel as a pack.
No, I mean, a couple of them do. Like 4-LOM and Zuckuss are a duo.
Yeah, but it's like he had assembled individual lone guns for the most part, and she's just like, you guys keep that band together. You didn't catch Han Solo, but I've got work for you.
Though actually, in the comic book adaptation, it is implied that this is a team that Boba Fett has that is working together. And I wonder if that's something from like an earlier shooting script.
Oh, that could be.
Was erased, yeah.
That might be.
It's Domina Tag. Everyone remember Domina Tag?
Yes. Kind of. No, I do. But it's like, it's sort of thing where you go like, it's more like, right. Well,
and if you don't, she'll spend half a page recapping
why you should know her. This is my, it's been long enough now, because as I said, issue 37 as she's referencing here. And you're like, that was a while ago. That was a whole Empire Strikes Back adaptation ago.
I know. But it was some of our favorite stuff from before Empire Strikes Back.
That stuff was good, yeah.
I love that the comic is actually remembering its own like storylines that it's been setting up.
But the fact that she has to be like, let me explain again to you why I hate you, Princess Leia.
And so, yeah, we get this backstory here as Domina begins to monologue that basically the struggle between the rebellion and the Empire has destroyed most of her family. So her plan here is to kill everybody.
Yeah, I mean, I do sort of like that the tag threat in the comic has become a thing where they are a third entity.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They're sort of like tangentially with the Empire, but they're that's a means to an end. They're with the Empire as long as that can help them.
Right, exactly. I mean, I think the House of Tag is a fun, like, comic book specific antagonist that every time they come back, I enjoy it.
No, I'm glad to get them back because they actually are one of the few things that the comic book has created. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, that's actually pretty good. That's something. And like you're talking about, they're a good comic book thing because they can be a side villain that they can fight without really affecting the trajectory of the movie plot.
Exactly. So one of Domina's and the House of Tag's superpowers is just spies giving them plot relevant information. Because there's going to be a lot of that in the next page.
Yeah. Well, you have to.
So when our spies brought me rumors of 2 strange deadly gems in the Red Nebula, I rushed to investigate. As our ships laid waste to the primitive civilization, they're driving off some giant creature, so presumably that blue guardian creature is dead.
Yeah, they did basically tell me we came here and just laid waste.
This elite group of bounty hunters I hired captured the jewel and the priest tending to them. And on the bottom of the page, we see the Bossk and IG-88, and I think that's supposed to be Zuckuss and Dengar kind of like fleeing from the temple.
Yeah. And so they're just like, yeah. So everything you just learned, we undid.
Yep. And we brought those gemstones back, and our plan was to send one of them to the Empire and one of them to the Rebellion and kill everyone with the Crimson forever.
And then Tag takes over the galaxy. The family Tag.
But things did not go as Domina planned.
Believe it or not, that didn't work out.
Because they tried giving one of these gemstones to the Empire, and the Empire attacks them. Because of course they did.
Yep. And so, yeah. And so
Darth Vader had learned of my journey and dispatched a warship to discover the secret behind it.
Yep. Well, that Darth Vader, man, you just can't count him out.
You really can't.
And so this last priest who we met, what I didn't intend that a dying priest momentarily unguarded during the fight would reach and unleash the second jewel. The Imperial's canister had been rigged so its seals would burst under the pressures of hyperdrive. And then that basically got us to where we found that derelict ship.
Right, because Domina gave them the location of Golrath as like kind of a good-natured trade to try to get them out of that situation.
Absolutely.
Which
and so,
she also learned about from her spies.
What don't they know? And so, yeah.
I like Lando's reaction to all of this, though. It's just like, cute.
Yeah, that's adorable. You had to tell us that whole... Okay, all right. Only the last act of that priest kind of made it all backfire. Huh? So you told us that whole story, and then it just didn't work. Okay, great. Well, that's too bad, I suppose. And so they're just like, well, yeah, but that's why we're kind of stuck here, right?
The bounty hunters and I managed to secure this section of the ship before the doom caused by the twin gems being separated could infect us.
Yeah. And then Lando's big thing is, joke's on you, this suit was faulty, so now you've all got it!
Lando's big play here of just like, guess what? I've got the plague. It's like in the height of the COVID lockdowns, walking up to someone and just coughing on them.
Yeah. We're all going to hell tonight.
Which freaks out Dengar and Bossk.
Look at how scared Dengar is. And Bossk is literally leaping away from Lando.
He's got like weird chameleon face as well.
Yeah, it's his skin too. Yeah, he's a little less lizardy there.
Yeah, whereas Domina is just like,
it's just gonna shoot him?
Idiot. Yeah, I mean, why not? Well, that's Forlom back there, because Forlom is also a droid.
Yeah, and then IG-88 unloads on them.
Yeah, because IG-88 doesn't give a shit about viruses.
Yeah. He's going to be last man standing.
So let's see. Lando and Leia go diving through an airlock as the bounty hunters open fire on them, the Bluff having bought them just a brief period of time.
Yeah, I do like the action of this panel with them diving away from the laser blasts.
Yep. Good stuff.
Yeah. And so
Lando reseals his suit.
Yeah, because he was lying about that.
Yeah, absolutely. He was bluffing.
Yeah. That's what Lando does, baby.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so they get control of the airlocks, right? Or is that what?
Right, because to make their escape, because Domina and the bounty hunters are going to be right behind them, except that Leia says, we've opened every airlock between here and the exposed part of the ship. If you follow us, you're going to catch this fever and die.
Yeah. And she's like, damn you.
Which is also kind of a bluff, I think. Because, like, if the other gemstone isn't here, how would they get the Crimson forever?
Certainly, you're stronger than I suspected. Drive me to play my last card. Suppose there's a chance of undoing the damage, including the death of Luke Skywalker. And right, so they basically, yeah, it's just like, look, if we just, I'll help you get the gemstone back together if you save us.
Right.
So that you can save Luke Skywalker.
Is like, get me out of here because apparently she has the other gemstone.
Right. And I like that. And so we get that we're back on a Star Cruiser or a Star Destroyer, and they put everything back together, which they explained for way too long.
Yeah. So basically, we get a little bit more plot.
It's so simple. You just have to put these things back together. But instead, it's like, no, they radiate a sense of well-being, a positive physical aura. That aura has, and you're just like, okay.
So it turns out these two gemstones are like living crystalline beings,
which is very Star Warsy.
Sure. And there's some like kyber crystal stuff going on here, maybe.
Yep.
And if the gems are separated, they create this like zone of negative energy, which
is the
represents itself as the Crimson Forever. And but if they're brought together, they create a set like this aura of peace and tranquility, which is how the place in the Red Nebula was able to survive for so long.
Right, yeah, which is interesting that there's like if you're basically around these two crystals when they're put together, nothing bad will ever happen to you, essentially.
Unless a starship shows up and just tries to blow up your temple with a bunch of bounty hunters.
Yeah, that's interesting. See, that's what I'm saying. It's like, okay, all right. But I do like that they're like, this thing can undo the Crimson Forever. Except those guys, they're fucking dead.
All the Imperials are dead. Don't worry about
it. Don't even. Yeah.
The medical droid is like, Your Highness, this fallen Imperial is not reviving. The lady's theory is accurate, but the shock and strain of seeming to contract a deadly virus and trying to fight it has had a fatal effect.
And Leia's like, that's fine.
But that means even Luke...
He's fine.
Because, next page. Oh, Luke's fine.
So, we don't get word. Are all the rebels dead, too?
It seems to imply that, like, okay, it could bring someone back from this if they have a strong enough will to, like, resist the virus.
It seems like only Luke comes back.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is not great.
Not great.
Because they're way too happy. They're like, yeah, but aren't there like 5 other guys who were very dead that were probably important to the rebellion? Because especially post-Empire, don't we really need as many people as we can get?
It was just Jenkins. Do we really care? Wedge is still here. We're fine.
Hey, man, actually, while this happened, Wedge destroyed like a bunch of Imperial bases. He was kicking so much ass.
You have no idea. I wish we had a whole comic about that.
Oh, wouldn't that be great? Oh, I think we would love that comic.
We'll get to Rogue Squadron eventually.
Oh, a comic I was totally obsessed with as a kid. Absolutely crazy for.
So, they let Domina go because that was part of the deal.
And they're just like, well, wait a minute. That's a little crazy. But what's this?
They also leave the 2 gemstones on that Star Destroyer and then set it to autopilot just out off the galactic rim.
Yeah. And they're going to take off, but what's this? Not Hansa, once again. Lando's like, I might have mentioned something about those super valuable gems being aboard to the bounty hunters, and they are going to tear her ass apart.
Well, specifically, he mentions a small confession. Before they left, I casually let slip to her bounty hunting companions that because of her scheme involved offenses against the Empire, the Imperials might offer a substantial reward for Lady Tag. They might seem interested in that.
Yeah, they're definitely going to kill her. But we'll see if that... I'm curious if that will come back if we see the tags again, if it's like, oh, she either fought off those bounty hunters or is now imprisoned by the Empire.
Well, we'll see if the House of Tag makes a comeback.
I have a feeling they will. They should, because once again, they should lean hard into that for this comic, because they're the threat that they actually can face in this book.
It's true. But that is the end of this issue. Like, this ends really suddenly. Just over. The one last page is, Luke's fine, everything's good, the crystals are off into space, Domina Tag is going to get hers.
Even Chewie's smiling at the end here in this very Chips-esque freeze frame. And Chewie
credits roll.
The way Chewie's been throughout this whole issue, which is valid, shouldn't he be like, we have to go find Han. This is great that we did this, but let's get right back to finding Han. No, he's just like, I can enjoy this victory. You crazy.
Freeze. Credits roll over the freeze frame.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was issue number 50, a huge, giant-sized double issue.
That I will argue, it is interesting. Stretches and then suddenly has to end, which is I don't know. This maybe needed a better outline, though there's some good stuff in here.
Yeah, overall, I think it was a solid 50th issue. I think they did good callbacks to like the history, because what you're looking for in like a 50th issue is like something they do in, especially in Marvel books, is like, okay, 50th issue is going to be like a bunch of storylines converging, or maybe we'll do a giant-sized issue that is like its own little one-off story, but also calls back to the series as a whole. And I think this issue does a pretty good job of that.
I think so too, and this is certainly in the upper tier of this comic, which will always, I feel like, this is never going to be what we want in its entirety. But I mean, like it's got too many things working against it. But it's
working against it retroactively, which is like why
that's what I'm saying.
Is
like
about it.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is like they just don't know stuff. They're caught between movies. There's just like I said, there's too many things working against it. We're still in an era too where it's like Marvel's not really gonna let people experiment. You're not gonna get like a big creator to come in and do their take. This book, of any of the books in Marvel right now, this is the one that's like, just keep humming along as long as it's sort of, because it's the easiest sell of the bunch because people just love Star Wars.
Yeah.
So I'm curious to see if the sales start to flag post Jedi or something. Like when the book ends, I'm very curious how and why the Marvel
we'll get
Star
into
Wars
it as we get there. Yeah. I think that will maybe put the impetus on us as podcasters to maybe do a little research about that.
Never! No. But hey, next issue, I see something about the rebirth of evil.
Somehow, Tarkin survived.
No! Oh. He was beamed out. Oh, I'm sorry. No.
He was trapped in the transporter buffer panel, and
just like Scotty. Yeah, that's how Scotty.
Just like Scotty.
Yeah, one of my favorite Next Gen episodes, entitled "Relics." But okay, if you want more from us, from this show and all the shows of the Punch Up Entertainment Network, head over to our Patreon page, which is patreon.podbean.com/punchup. Once again, that's patreon.podbean.com/punchup. You get cool exclusive bonus content, as well as help out all the shows on the Punch Up Entertainment Network.
Yes, of course. And if you want another way of enjoying those shows, you can check out our YouTube page, youtube.com/@punchupentertainment. There you can, best way to watch this show, because you can read along with us, see all the art we're talking about. I think it's one of the best ways to appreciate that art is by looking at it.
No question.
While you're there, you can find all of our other shows, as well as our YouTube exclusive stuff, like Punch Up Goes to the Movies and the Punch Up Plays series. You can also, while you're there, like, comment, subscribe, hit that bell for notifications every time we release a new thing.
Absolutely.
In the comments below, why don't you let us know what's your favorite landmark issue of a thing, whether that be like a crossover event or a 50th issue or a giant sized, what have you. There have been so many comics that have like tried to prop up as like big landmark issues. Some of them successful, some of them not. I'd be curious what people's favorites are.
Absolutely. Yeah, put that in the comments below. But I think that's going to wrap things up, Gorgoni.
Yes, indeed, because as always, I have been Mike Gorgoni.
I'm John Campbell.
And remember, may the panel be with you.